Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Lai. I'm a solution architect from Veeam Software. Thank you very much for joining today's session. Today, we are going to talk about Veeam Kasten, which is focusing on how to protect and migrate your Kubernetes workload. Well, waiting for the rest of people to join, let me do some housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded automatically. When you enter to this webinar, you will be muted. However, if you do have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function, right? And of course, we will post the recording and the presentation slide on the Veeam Pro Partner Portal after a few days, all right? Without further ado, let's proceed. Today agenda, we will be focusing on talking about Kasten. I will start the first sessions by go through some PowerPoint slides, and then I will end the sessions by giving you a demo as well. So during the PowerPoint slide, I will talk about Veeam and Kasten, how we are better together. And then we are going to look through on some of the common challenges as well. And of course, I will walk through on the demo. All right. As what we already know, Veeam is a very famous product, has been exist in the for the past 15 years. We have continued to innovate our products to support virtualizations, physical and also cloud. And of course, when we acquire Kasten, so we able to protect Kubernetes workload as well, right? So from here, Veeam plus Kasten, we can say that we're able to support multiple workload, either your traditional or containerized work environments as well. All right. The next thing will be if you talk about your Kubernetes containers, okay, either you're running on-prem or even on the public cloud as well. We do able to support by using Kasten. All right. So that's why we able to support what we call multi-environment. When your container is running either stateful or stateless, we do able to support application aware as well. Okay, and the best part about using Veeam plus Kasten, right? We don't what we call a lock-in. All right, we able to support multiple different kind brand of storages, and we able to leveraging on the storages CSI drivers to perform a backup, right? Just to share with you, in order for you to deploy Kasten, right, you do not need to create another separate virtual machine, right? Kasten itself is running on container, so it sits on top of your Kubernetes platform, right? So therefore, we can categorize this as a Kubernetes native, right? Now let's look into the current market. What are the most common challenges when I go and meet customers or even partners? There are two common challenges that most of them they bring up to us. The first one will be asking a question about how do you protect what we call Kubernetes container, especially on those applications which is stateful. Okay, stateful means those applications which is running, for example, database, and then it consists of data as well, right? So their main challenges right now is they want to back up the Kubernetes stateful container so they're able to prevent data loss and also corruption. The next thing will be they do have a test environment, right? So as what we all know, developer always make some changes. They also would like to look into having a backup solution to protect those dev and test environment. Okay, once the containers or the application has been successfully built, the next questions they would like to do is they would like to migrate. Okay, for example, their containers from one platform to another platform. Example will be from on-prem Okay, they build everything from on-prem. The next question will be how easy for them to move their containers to public cloud. All right. The second challenges that they always want to have will be disaster recovery. Okay, disaster recovery is similar like virtual machine, right? So in case the virtual machine corruptions, they would like to perform, for example, a failover to DR. Okay, so this is for those customers who are looking for DR, right? They are asking about how do they perform a disaster recovery for their containers environments, all right? And how do they able to bring up the workload, for example, if the primary site is down, right? So this is the two most common challenges that faced by the customers. But before we look into to overcome those challenges, right? The first thing that we need to look at will be um, why do we need to back up Kubernetes? Okay, some customers they raise a question saying that will it be possible that we just back up entire VM? Okay, because my Kubernetes platform is running on top of the virtual machines. So if I use Veeam to back up entire VM, I will be able to recover the whole entire VMs in case of any disasters, right? But one thing that you need to take note, Kubernetes itself is running off what we call microservices or even pod as well. Inside the containers, right, it do came with what we call two type of containers. The first type of container is stateful. Okay, stateful containers means is those applications which is receiving the data, and those data are written into a disk, or some of them they are running on top of memory. All right. So if you back up entire VM, definitely you will not be able to back up those microservices or even artifacts which is still in the memory, or even on those data which is put into what we call persistent volume, right? The second type of container will be stateless container. Okay, stateless container is one type of the pod whereby those pod can be easily recreated by the Kubernetes platform in case of any failure. This is automatically done by the Kubernetes platform itself. So a lot of questions also ask, you probably don't need to back up those what we call stateless container because it's automatically rebuilt. But one thing that you need to understand is, let me give you an example. Disasters such as ransomware attacks. Ransomware, when they attack, right, they will just scan the whole entire network and they will just go and encrypt all those data and even your application as well. So when they're able to attack to your Kubernetes environments, they don't care whether it's stateful or stateless, right? So the next question is, how easy for you to recover your whole entire environments, especially your containers, when ransomware do attack? So you would like to have backup in order for you to reduce your efforts and bring up your workload as fast as possible. So this is where today, in today's webinar, we are introducing what we call custom K10, right? So this is the product which is you can use it to protect your Kubernetes environment, right? So custom K10, it came with two interface, okay? For those of you who are developer, you probably prefer those interface which running on command line, all right? And some of you who are probably a backup operator, okay, you don't like to use command line. We at Kasten, we do provide a web-based interface as well as what you can see on the screen right now. So this particular interface, once you have already published it and you're able to access it, right? And then you can do all your operation from this particular portal. So we do have two interface to cater for different kind of needs, right? So, but don't worry about the interface. We will walk through on the demo later. But what I want to share with you will be Kasten K10. The beauty about this particular product is, first and foremost, is application discovery. Okay, if application discovery means that every time you build a new container, our Kasten will be able to pick up immediately. All right. So once we're able to pick up, the operators can start to create a policy to automate, to schedule, to do backup of this particular container. The interface itself is quite easy to use. It's not that difficult. And of course, we also take security in mind as well. So we do provide end-to-end security to protect your Kubernetes environments, right? Now let's have a quick look on what's good about Kasten K10. First and foremost, which I want to share with you is this particular product is built and it runs on Kubernetes natively. All right, you don't need to create a virtual machine. All right, it can be run on different kind of environments, either on-prem or even on the public cloud as well. So the three use case whereby you always will use Kasten K10. The first one will be backup and recover. Okay, definitely you want to back up your containers, and then in case of any corruptions or data loss, you're able to recover your container as well. The second scenario will be application mobility. Okay, this is to cater for those people who would like to migrate their containers from one environment to another environment. Okay, probably they build their containers in the dev environments. Once they are ready, they would like to move into another clusters. All right. Second scenario will be moving from on-prem to the public cloud, or even from the public cloud. For example, running on JKE, they probably want to run it on EKS. Yes, you can use Kasten as an application mobility. Another use case will be some people use to migrate, for example, Red Hat OpenShift, right, from one version to another version, right? They can also use Kasten as well, right? And of course, the last use case will be using it as DR, right? Similar concept, almost similar like VM replications, but we don't provide uh, what we call replications, but we allow you to have what we call export and import, and you can schedule this to run according to schedule, right? So in case of any disasters on the primary side, you're able to recover and bring up your containers at the DR environments, right? Next will be the interface, as what I already mentioned. It's a web-based interface. It's easy to use. We have an API to talk to the different platform as well. The next thing will be when we talk about end-to-end security, we do support authentication and authorization as well. So if you want to configure security, for example, role-based access control, yes, you can do that as well. And of course, before you access to Kasten interface, you can also have what we call authentications using OIDC or token authentications. You can also configure IAM as well. And of course, if you want to protect your containers, okay, you do not want them to access and read by other people, you can also enable what we call encryption as well. Kasten itself is a very rich ecosystem, right? And of course, we are going to look more details in the next slide. On this slide, on the right hand side, this is where all the Veeam portfolio, okay, as what we already know that Veeam are very famous to protect virtualization environments. We do protect physical workload and also public cloud, right? Plus software as a service as well, right? But today's sessions, we are not going to talk about those portfolio. Okay, on the left hand side, you can see this is where Kasten sits, whereby it provides a Kubernetes protections. All right. By using Veeam plus Kasten, we do provide end-to-end solutions to cater for your different kind of needs. Right. For Kasten K10, we do have integration with the storages. We can leveraging on their technology called CSI drivers to perform backup. Okay. The first approach is using snapshots. Okay. That is for short term. And then for long-term archiving, we also have integration with object storage. You can put it into Azure object storage. You can put it into AWS S3 and even on the Google Cloud storages as well. Okay. We do support S3 compatible for those of you who are looking into putting your backup data into on-prem object storage as well. All right. In terms of distribution, we do support a lot of Kubernetes distributions. Okay, the list is quite long. We can't fit everything into this slide. All right, But one thing that I can share with you is we do support Red Hat OpenShift, Ranchers, Kubernetes native, and also those public cloud. We can also support JKE, EKS, and also AKS as well. Right. On top of that, your containers, which is, for example, stateful containers, which is running on Postgres, MongoDB, MySQL, RDS, all these kind of things. You can use Kasten to backup as well. Now let's have a quick look on the architectures. All right. First and foremost, your Kubernetes environments can be running on virtual or physical or even on the public cloud. Then once you have the infrastructure set up, the next thing is you would start to deploy, for example, your Kubernetes container platform. All right. So this is where once you have this environment, the next thing will be you go to Helm to download the Kasten. Right. Once you have downloaded the Kasten, it will install as a containers. Okay. It sits on top of your Kubernetes platform. All right. So once you have installed it, we will be able to talk to what we call Kubernetes API, and be able to discover those applications, right? And also all the components is in your environment. Okay. So let's say you do have what we call all those containers. The next thing will be when we want to do backup, definitely we will first leveraging on snapshots, okay, as a short-term backup retentions. And then for long-term retentions, you can put it into object storage as well, right? For those containers with stateful, you want it to be application aware. This is where you can inject what we call application blueprint, right? By using application blueprint, be able to detect those applications and be able to back up those application aware for those database, right? So drill down on application aware. Definitely first thing approach is we discover this application. Once we identify application running on these containers, the next thing is we will select the best approach for us to back up those stateful containers. All right, you can use the native tool, all right, to do backup on that as well, right? And of course, we can also leveraging on what we call application blueprint, right? So for application blueprint, we are leveraging on what we call canisters, right? When you're using Kasten to do backup, as what I just mentioned, the first approach is snapshots. This will be crash consistent, all right? And then for those stateful containers, we do allow you to inject the blueprint so you can make this application consistent, right? Application consistent means it will freeze the data services, okay, and then it will perform the snapshot. Once it's done that, then it will unfreeze the data services, right? By using the blueprint, as what I just shared with you just now, definitely we will make sure that the DB will be consistent. And of course, by using Kasten, we also will make sure that your system will be fully consistent. You're able to recover your data when disaster happen, right? All this, we are going to look into that in my demo later. Now, let's look into the workflow, right? A lot of people start to ask, okay, how does we work, right? The first approach is once we already install, we will do application capture. So this is where we will start to do a discovery of the applications, right? Once you have discovered the applications, you can start to build the policy. Okay, inside the policy, you can configure the settings. You can also configure the scheduling as well, right? In case of any disasters, you can also use Kasten to do recovery. Okay, and the best part using Kasten will be we also can perform what we call application mobility, right? Either you can clone your containers to different namespace, or you can even move your containers from one platform to another platform as well. Now let's look into the workflow of backing up, right? So when we do backup, first and foremost, definitely you will create a policy. So inside that policy, you define the settings, right? inside this particular policy, we will talk to what we call custom API controller, right? The API controller will start to discover the applications, right? And then by connecting to the Kubernetes API, then you have all the settings, artifacts that will be displayed. You can perform, you can select all the configurations, right? We will do the app app captures and data captures, right? And definitely we will need to talk to your Kubernetes platforms to identify what kind of your CSI driver that you're using, the blueprint, and even your object storage as well, right? Then all these will, the backup policy will be recorded into the catalogs. So you will have the records, right? And then once the backup has been successfully performed, definitely we will show you the restore point and everything will be kept inside the catalog. Now let's look into disaster, all right? You want to perform what we call recovery. So you will execute recovery options. This is where we will talk to Custom K10 API controller. Okay, the controllers will talk to the catalogs, will get all the informations, right? And then when you select the data that you want to restore, we will talk to the platforms, right? And then you're able to recover the containers, right? Once you already recovered, then we'll keep track in the records and we will update in the catalog as well, right? So this is the workflow of how you perform a recovery. Now let's look into application mobility. Okay. Right now on the screen, you can see there's one what we call containers, right? It's running on top of the one of the Kubernetes cluster. So you create a namespace called app. Inside this namespace of app, it consists of two ports, right? One port is app, another port is DB, right? And then the next thing will be, as a developer, you probably do not want to make some changes into this particular containers environments. So what you do is you probably use Kasten to do a clone. So you can clone to a different namespace, right? Which called app clone, right? So from there, the developer can perform another test or modification to this particular namespace, right? Once they are happy with it, the next thing is the containers is ready. They can able to use Kasten to what we call migrate this into different environments. So we can see this scenario whereby developers have two kind of cluster. The first cluster will be dev environments. Another one is production environments, right? So that is a quick walkthrough on the slide. So without further ado, as what everyone has been waiting for, let's move on to the demo environment. All right, guys. So what I did is I already published this Kasten and I able to access by using the URL. So from here, you're able to see this is the front page of the Kasten, right? From here, you're able to see the activities, the progress of your backups, either it's successful or failure, right? And then on the bottom here is this is the progress of each of the backup or even recovery as well, right? So you notice here on the bottom here, it's mentioned skip. That's because my environment is being turned off. So I just power on this morning and then I run a backup for WordPress backup. But before we move into here, right, let's walk through on the interface itself, right? First and foremost, as the operators, you probably want to configure Kasten first before you start to use, right? So let's start with the bottom one. The dashboard right now is in dark color. Well, if you don't like it, you can change to light color, right? So you notice this, it will change to white color, right? So we will stay with dark color, all right? And then the next thing will be you click on support. So when you click on support from here, you're able to see the Kasten K10 version. This is the latest version, which I just upgraded to 5.5. All right. We release the Kasten new version every 2 weeks. So once we release a new version, you're able to see there's an indicator here, new version is available, and then you can click on into that and follow the step to perform an upgrade of Kasten K10, right? My Kubernetes versions right now is 1.25. This is the latest version, right? And of course, you can go down here, you can see additional informations. For example, your storage class. So right now, I'm running these storage classes in my Kubernetes environments, right? So let's say if you do have a CSI drivers, then you're able to see additional things from here as well, right? In case of any issue, you want to contact support, you can download the log, all right? Then you can submit to support team for further investigation. Now let's move into security, the role base. So into a role base, first and foremost, you can define a new role, right? So this is the RBAC. For example, I want to create a role-based access control. And this particular role-based access control able to access to entire cluster or even specific application. Okay, some of you probably want to configure a rollback access control for different applications, okay, or even for entire clusters, right? So in terms of here, you can just define your actions. For example, this role will be able to read, write, or even delete, right, on some of the items. So you can just pick and choose, right? Config, reporting, vault key, everything from here, right? So once you have defined the role, the next thing is you can start to do assignment, right? So you can click into here, then you define your assignment. Okay, for example, the role that just now you created just now, you can just select that and you can define assign to certain people, right? So this is the authorizations, right? Then the next thing will be license. By default, when you already install, we will give you starter editions, right? It came with the full functionality of Kasten, whereby you can use it to do backup and recovery, right? And this licensing, it can cater up to 5 worker nodes, right? Just for your information, our Kasten is licensed based on worker node, right? So if your environment is quite small and you want to do a testing into it, you can play around with Kasten. By default, we already give you this 5 worker node, right? In terms of Kasten DR, okay, as what you already set up and install Kasten into the production site, you may want to set up a DR for Kasten, okay, because in case the primary site Kasten failure, you want to recover those things as well, right? So you can just follow the wizard here to enable Kasten K10, right? Make sure you save the passkey and also this cluster ID. It's very important because when you set up at DR site and you want to perform recovery, they will ask you about the passkey and also the cluster ID, right? Once you enter that, it connect to object storage to get the data, and then it will start to rebuild your whole entire Kasten, okay? Now let's move into blueprint. Remember just now we talked about application blueprint. So from here, you can inject what we call canister blueprint, okay? Previously, you need to do this in command line as a developer, but in this new version in the web interface, we allow you to add a new blueprint. So as a developer, you can start to write, okay? For example, here you can start to write all your blueprint, okay? Or you can go to the GitHub and get those blueprint as well, right? As what you can see right now, I already entered 2 blueprints. One of them is MySQL blueprint. Okay, inside this blueprint, you can edit this. This is how it looks like, right? So these blueprints, okay, we can also click validate before we save it to make sure there's no issue of this blueprint. This particular blueprint allow you to do an action such as backup, restore, and also delete. Okay, Right now, I already enter MySQL blueprint. I also enter the Postgres blueprint as well, right? The next question is, what happens if you're not a developer? Okay, as a backup admin, you want to back up those stateful applications. Good things that as a Kasten, we also put our blueprint into GitHub, right? So when you go to GitHub, right? So for example, you scroll down, right? So this is all the blueprint which is available, right? So you notice here, we got MySQL, we got Postgres, we got MongoDB. So let's say if you click on the MongoDB, you go to the YAML file, right? All you need to do is just copy this, right? Just copy all this, okay, the blueprint, and then copy, all right? And you back to Kasten, you add blueprint, then you just paste, okay? Once you paste it, let's click validate and save. So you notice here, we added a new blueprint, okay? So this is how easy for you to add the blueprint, for you to back up those stateful containers. Now let's move into our infrastructures, right? So in terms of our infrastructures right now, from here, let's say, depend on your environments, where do you host your Kubernetes? Let's say if you put it into public cloud, you can even put AWS, Azure, GCP, and then if you do have, for example, TKG or Tanzu, you can point to the vSphere environment. All you need to do is just enter this value, and then you'll be able to connect to it and perform backup, right? In terms of location, this is talking about where do you want to put your backup data for long-term archiving. So from here, if you click on new profile, you can put into Amazon S3. So all you need to do is just put the SS key, the secret key, select your regions, put your bucket. And the good thing about here is, for those of you who would like to protect your backup data from ransomware, if you're using S3, we do provide you immutable backup, right? This will protect your backup data of containers from ransomware attacks, right? Same goes as go to Azure storages, Google, right? NFS, S3 compatible if you're on-prem, and then of course you can transfer to Veeam repo as well. So right now, you can notice from here, let me just edit this. So just to show to you, this is the settings that I put it in, right? Then of course, some of you who are developer, you prefer to view in YAML file, right? So you can view from here as well. So this proves that our interface really developed to cater for two different people, one for developer and one for backup operator, right? So that is the basic configuration. It's not that difficult. So let's move to the dashboard. So when we move to the dashboard, right, you notice here application, it discover got 5 applications, right? And then you notice I purposely made this as comply, not comply, and unmanaged. So what does it mean? Compliance means that the backup has been running. Okay, that means it meet your RPO and RTO that you define, right? Non-comply means there's no backup running for probably few days. Okay, unmanaged means we discover the new container, but you do not configure a backup policy, right? So you can just click into applications. You can notice from here. So remember this morning I run a backup for WordPress, right? And then from here I able to see the number of restore point, right? That means we got update the catalog, and then once the backup completed, then it will reflect here as well, right? Default not protected, that means it's unmanaged, and then not comply means for few days I did not run backup, right? So you notice here the last backup is November 9, right? I purposely made this, right? Okay, now, so how do we prove that what we call application discovery, right? What I'm going to do next will be, right? So let me move this screen. Okay, I terminal into my Kubernetes environments, and let's do create a new namespace. Okay, new container called test1, So right now on the screen, you can see 5 namespace. So I just execute the command. You notice there, another namespace is discover. This is the new container which I just built. So that means we're able to do application discovery. Okay. So let's prove another one, create test2. Okay. So notice here, test1 and test2, right? So new containers are able to detect, we're able to discover it. And in case you already run backup and suddenly you go and remove it, it will appear under remove, right? So let's say as a developer, right now I just want to delete. Okay, I'm going to delete test2, and then I'm going to delete 1 as well. So you notice, okay, so test1 and test2 will be removed from the screen. So this is how the application discovery works, right? Now let's move into configure policy, right? So when you go to the policy here, let me go and edit this, right? In terms of the backup policy, you can select snapshots, okay? If you're doing a DR, all right, then you need to select import, all right? So let's go into backup first. When you do a backup, first approach is snapshots. So snapshot, you can select your frequencies to run backup every hourly, daily, weekly. It's really up to you. And then if you want to specify different time, right, you can also select from here as well, right? So we're not going to do that. And then you define your snapshot retention. Okay, what is your retention? The next approach will be if you want to transfer to object storage for long-term archiving. So you can just turn on this. Okay, you can just select your which snapshot that you want to take to transfer to object storage. Okay, define your object storage location. And then the next thing will be you can configure a different retention. Either you follow back the same one like the snapshot, or you can create a new retention. Okay, we probably want to put as a different retention, okay, because we want to keep it for long term, right? And then when you're going down, you can define, do you want to back up the whole entire namespace, or you want to back up just certain labels, okay, based on your applications? It's really up to you, right? You scroll down, right? Right. If you do want to use the blueprint, you can select this as well, right? And then of course, once you have defined this, you can click on the YAML file. So this is the YAML file, right? So that is how easy that you create the policy. Then the next thing will be, as a developer, you probably want to run this in command line. So to cater for that, you can click into this icon. You can get this command. Okay, you can use this command, okay, to perform a backup using command line. Okay, for developer, they always love to do this, right? And sometimes you also want to build the YAML file. You can do that as well, right? Then the next thing is if you don't want to wait for this particular backup to run, you can click on run once. Okay. So I already run this just now in the morning, right? If you want, I can just run it again, right? And then it will show here. Then you can click into the dashboard. So when you go to the dashboard, you notice here that it's running, right? So when you click into this, you can see that the first approach is doing a snapshot. Once it's done this, then it will transfer to object storage. You can see another activity later. Okay, this will take a while. Okay, while waiting for this to run, all right? Okay, you notice here, snapshot done. Next is transfer to object storage. Okay, once it's done that, then it will update the catalog. All right. This will take a while. So let's walk through on the dashboard, right? So when we go to the dashboard, next will be usage and report. So you can generate a report as well. You can view your usage, how much storage that you already use for snapshots, transfer to object storage, all right, live storages as well, right? And then the next thing will be the latest version. We already included with Grafana. So some of you probably know about Grafana. So Grafana provide you a very nice interface dashboard. So from here, you're able to see your backup status, your restore status, uh, and then you're able to view what we call your cluster environments. Okay. If you want, you can also configure alert as well. So from here, you can just create alert, send notifications by email if you want to have that as well, right? So that is a very simple dashboard. So let's back to the dashboard. Okay, still transferring. Okay, it's already transferred to object storage. Now we're just updating, completed. The backup is successful, right? So let's move into our application. Okay, what I did is I create a block, right? This is a very simple block for demo purpose, right? Then I put some posts as well. For example, I just bought an Apple Watch, so I just put it into the block, right? And then of course another post will be this is the partner bootcamp that we organized I think last month. Yep. So last month we have a paintball, ATV, and water rafting. Okay, this is just to show to you that I put some posts into it, right? Then the next thing will be I able to log into the admin portal. Let's say, for example, there's one, I just go and create a disaster, right? For example, I delete the post. So I deleted the post, I go here and refresh. So you notice here, my two lovely posts, which I just showed to you just now, is not available, all right? And so that means there's a data loss, right? But good thing is I got Kasten. So what I did is I go to Kasten to do a recovery. So I just go to the WordPress, I select the restore point. So from here, you're able to see that this is the previous restore point, right? You can see the previous one as well. So when you click into the restore point, let's say this one just now. So when you click into here, the first one is showing you the snapshot. And then the second one is the object storage. So you do have an option to select which one that you want to use to do recovery. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to use the snapshot. And then if you want, you can recover to a different namespace, right? Right now, I got data loss, so I just select recover data only. Okay. In terms of artifacts, so this is all the microservices running inside the container, right? Okay, let's say I don't want to select data restore. I do have an option to select, for example, a specific volume. Okay, specific volume. Artifact as well, I can deselect and select which artifact that I want to do recovery. Okay, that means granular recovery of your artifacts or microservices. But right now, I just want to recover data. So data, you cannot perform a selections of the artifacts, right? So once you are done selecting data, then I click on restore. Okay, go back to here. Then you notice here, the activities is showing that it performed a recovery, right? You can view actions by YAML file, right? And we just need to wait for a while. Right, just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A. Okay, while we're waiting. Okay, just performing restoration of data. This will take a while. Just wait for a while. Okay, let me check the questions, see whether there's any questions. Okay. Restoration completed. Let me back to the blog post. Okay. This right now, because I'm doing a publishing, so it's lost the connections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish again. Then I'm going to use a different port. Okay, 1.2.86. Okay, let me change the port to 86. All right. So there you go. I already successful perform a recovery using Gaston. So you notice here, I got back my blog post. This is my Apple Watch, and definitely the Malaysia Partner Bootcamp as well, right? So that's proof that I'm able to use Gaston to do a backup and also to do recovery as well, right? Okay, next thing will be, okay, for those of you who are looking for DR, remember the second challenge which I just mentioned just now? I don't have the environments, but I can show you how to do it. First thing is on each of the backup policy, right? They will show you the import detail. So all you need to do is you just copy this import detail, right, for each of your backup policy, and then you go to your DR Kubernetes environments, you create a new policy. All you need to do is click import, select import, all right? And then if you want to automatically restore the Kubernetes, once we detect there's a new changes, you can select that. And then the next thing will be, you can select your frequency, how often that you want it to do checking and also replicating from the primary side to DR, all right? And the next thing will be, you paste your import detail. So once you paste your import detail, we will know where to get the data. So right now it's pointing to S3 menu, right? So once you have done that, you create a policy. Okay, you do this at the DR side, then you will run according to schedule. All right. Once it's detect there's a new changes, and then you will perform a recovery at the DR side. All right. So that is how easy for you to do a DR or Gaston. Now let me back to the slide. Sorry. All right. So that's all for my demo. Let me have a quick look, all right, on the questions, right? All right, guys. If you do have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A chat functions to post your questions, right? Okay, calling once, calling twice. Okay, if no questions, that's all for today. Thank you very much, and see you next time.